Hi guys. Before I start, I'd like to ask you a question. Is our world beautiful? Of course, yes. But is our entire world is beautiful? The answer is no. There are some really dangerous things, and by this I don't mean the regular, normal, dangerous things that we all know. I mean things that most people don't know about. And to that, there is an organization that collects all things that are dangerous and hide it so we cannot harm people, called ECP, referring to Secure, Contain, and Protect. This society, as I said, collects all things that are harmful and hide it so it cannot harm people. And it could be a book, an animal that you haven't seen before, a game, and now you might ask, how can a book harm someone? Well, I'll get into that later, but first let me explain how this ECP work, followed by the most dangerous ECPs ever found. ECP is a society controlled by some of the biggest, most successful countries, and their ultimate goal is to protect humans from anything that might harm or scare them. In order to put their research and based on their harm level, they decide to not let it out to the world or completely destroy it. Thinking why they didn't do this to COVID? Anyways, all of the data that ECP collects does not have a specific name, but they name the data as numbers. Now you might wonder, what is the data? Before we get into that, you need to know that there are three placings or three categories that the ECP has. There's the first one, which is called the safe class. In this class, we find the least dangerous ECPs. It contains a safe lot of things that were fully analyzed by the ECP, meaning that they know that the harm is only caused by something which will they avoid. But again, it can be dangerous for someone who do not know how to deal with it. And an example from this class is an ECP called ECP 125. This ECP is a book that contains all the diseases that humanity has ever faced, and each page has the name of the disease and its symptoms. Based on the ECP, if a person read an entire page from the beginning of it to its end, it gets affected by the disease, and if that person read the whole book, it can get infected fully, and most likely that person won't be able to make it and die. So, as you saw, it is a dangerous book, but it won't hurt or harm anyone if you didn't read it. That's why it is in the safe category. Now let's move on to the second category. It is Euclid. In this category, we find all the ECPs that weren't fully understood to know how they function, or all the creatures that they didn't know. Therefore, they can predict their actions. And an example from this class is an ECP called ECP 173. It's a statue, a colored statue. You might think, a statue? Why is it dangerous? Well, because it can move and kill. ECP says that the status moves only when you're not looking at it. That's why when they do their experiment on him, they're required to enter as 3, never 1. So it can always be safe for someone to turn around or to blink, and that of course after telling the other 2 agents, or else you know what would happen. The ECP breaknecks and kills. The last category is Ki'er, or should I say Keter, because it's taken from Hebrew. Anyways, this class is filled with ECPs that are extremely dangerous and not understandable by the society, meaning that they cannot stop them. And an example from this category is an ECP called ECP 106, or what is also called the Old Man. It is shaped as a human, but it's not. His body produces a substance that melts anything it touches. That means that if he touched a wall, it will melt and eventually he will run away. Now, not just the ECPs that are classed, people who work there are also classified. There's class A is of the unknown ones, are the people who direct anything or everything and aren't allowed to be in the same place as the ECPs. Class B is of people who guards and directs sites and the prisons and the security chefs. Class C is of scientists, doctors that test their experiments and do their research on the ECPs. And the last class, which is class D, in this class opened a door to the controversial surrounding the society because they use people to experiment on them. I'll give you an example. Remember the ECP status that if we did not look at it, it breaks necks and kills? Well, how did they know that it reacts that way? They enter Class C person and they found out. Now you might wonder, where do they get those people? I mean, no one would want to volunteer to something very, very unknown. Well, the answer to that is that they use or pick people that are executed death or gonna die anyway from jail, and they experiment on them. This is why this category has opened a lot of controversials, because so many people think that it's wrong to use those people even though that they're executed to death and they're gonna die, but they still think it's wrong. What do you think? Do you think it's wrong, or are you okay with the idea or like the concept? Let me know in the comments down below. I personally think that it's wrong. Even though like the circumstances and everything, I think it's wrong to use those people. I think they have a right to, still have a chance and not be completely over just because they're in jail. Yeah, that's what I think. I'm gonna add one more ECP before I end this video. It's called ECP 2316. Now you can Google the numbers if you want to know more, but I'll just give you a brief introduction about this ECP. This ECP is detected in rivers or valleys, and it's not an animal nor a human. But if it was in a river and a human was passing by, he will see a bunch of dead bodies thrown onto the water. But people who saw this ECP said that those dead bodies weren't just random people. They were of people that they knew in their childhood or that they just know. And the power in this ECP is shown by the fact that if you try to get close to it or enter the water, they'll disappear. This ECP is in class 3, and the reason behind that is because they still don't know what it is. It can be a creature, a gas that hallucinate people. It can be anything, and they still don't know what exactly is it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment and like this video in order for it to be seen or to be shown to people that are interested. And yeah, I think I'll definitely be making a series because there are so many interesting things about this topic. So yeah, don't forget to encourage me so I can make more videos. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.